Hello? Testing. All right. Hello, Rick. Hello, Ryan. Welcome. Hello, Robert. Welcome. Hello, Julie. Ah, Yankee. Welcome. So just as a reminder, this is going to be the last Dhammapalooza for a month. And it will also be a short one because I'm exhausted from this weekend from Vasek. But in a couple days, I'm flying out to California. So I won't be back to do another Dhammapalooza until the 24th of June. So pretty much for all of June, no streaming or any teachings for me. Hello, Jay. Welcome. We'll give it another minute and we'll get started. Julie, yeah, right now I'm still at Empty Cloud, yes. I leave Thursday. All right, I think we can get started. Let's share screen. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Uttahatta nisidatta ko atto supatena vo. Atura nanhi kanidda sallaviddana rupatam uttata nisidatta dalhang sikkatta santiya mavo pamatte vinyaya machuraga amohita ivasange ya deva manusa cha sitta tittanti attika tara tetang visittikang kanovo ma upachagga kana tita hi sochanti nirayam hi samapita pamado rajo pamado pamada dhanu patito rajo appamadena vijaya abhavve salamattanoti. English? Wake up, make an effort. I thought it quite funny that I would choose this sutta to chant with my current state. Get up and sit. What need of sleep? For the sick, what rest is there? Pierced by the dart of pain. Get up and sit. Train hard for peace. Let not Mara know that you are negligent, deluded, and under his control. Cross beyond this craving, tied to desiring which gods and men remain. Don't let this chance pass by. Those who do so grieve, sending themselves to hell. From dust arises negligence, from negligence to more. By diligence and knowledge, pluck out the arrow oneself. Sad, sad. Okay, friends. Hello, Steve. Hello, Gregory. So for those of you who are joining, welcome to Dhammapalooza, the festival of Dhamma that we do Monday nights when I'm able to. And so for those of you who joined after I made the announcements earlier before we started, this is going to be the last Dhammapalooza for a month. The next Dhammapalooza will most likely be June 24th. In a couple of days, I'm flying out to California, and I'll be not quite offline the whole time, but I will not be able to do any streams or any teachings. And so I'm going to have a nice break with at Aranya Bodhi and then at Abhayagiri. So I'll have a nice break from being online so much. And today I'm going to make this a short Dhammapalooza, only about an hour. I'm still recovering from this weekend, and also the nutritional stuff, not exactly in the most energetic of states these days. But I see we have some questions, so if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat. I also have a sutta in my back pocket if we need it. Rick says, Bhante, what do beings in the animal realm need to do to be reborn in a higher realm? They can't do anything in the animal realm. All they can do is exhaust their time in the animal realm and then be born again according to their karma somewhere else. And then when they're in like the human realm, or a realm that they can actually listen to the Dhamma and practice the Dhamma, they develop the karma that doesn't lead them back to the animal realm again. Robert says, can you discuss your gratitude as it applies to the path and how it has affected your life? Gratitude is about not taking for granted something you've done in your life or something that's happened. And it's really a feeling of thankfulness for an experience. And it's often a strong experience to the point where if you've benefited from something, you would like other people to also benefit from the same thing. So when it comes to the path, I knew pretty much from an early time that my monastic life was always going to be a part of it, was always going to be sharing the Dhamma with others, because it was such a wonderful thing for me. And there's such a demand for good Dhamma teachers that if I have the skills and the desire, how can I not do it? How can I not share the Dhamma with people? That's because of the gratitude on the path, because of, you know, I don't think I'm anywhere near awakened, but even just to the point where I've gotten, the path has been so beneficial, the best thing that I've ever done in my life. That sharing that path with others is one of the most meaningful things that I do. You know, the most meaningful things I've ever done are practice the follow the path and share it with others. I've done a lot of meaningful things in my life. I have done lots of very good things, but this is the best, without a doubt. Not easy, probably also the hardest, to be honest with you, but still the best. What does Dhamma say about those honoring those in the military who offer their lives to protect us, even though they might not have to harm others to keep us safe? Killing is unskillful. Doesn't matter what it's for. Right? Yeah. The Buddha, the Dhamma doesn't say anything about soldiers and like the concept of, you know, like they fought for us and stuff like that. That's not really something from the ancient times, right? You know, like you, because you fought for your liege lord and things like that. You fought for certain religion or ideology. You don't see kind of like a Memorial Day in ancient times, at least not that I've ever come across. So I think it's a different mindset, you know. And then again, also, I mean, the sheer numbers of people who died in the last 160 years is, in war is much greater than in ancient times, you know, where battles would not be so many people. So yeah, it's a secular thing. So there's nothing really for the Dhamma to say about it, you know, other than refrain from killing. Even if we think it's a good reason, even in self-defense, technically, if you kill in self-defense, it's still killing if you intentionally kill. Now, obviously, there, you know, there could be gradations, right? Is killing in self-defense the same as being a serial killer? Probably not. But killing is never skillful, even if it's in the role of protecting. It's not really something that should be praised in Buddhism. Now, of course, you know, you may or may not know something about me, but I have I have family members and tons of friends who are veterans. You know, I've tried to join the military 3 times in this life myself. You know, my grandparent, all of my grandparents fought in World War II. You know, so I understand it, and this was Memorial Day and Veterans Day and stuff like that were very important to me as a layperson. But in terms of the Dhamma, it's not much to say about you know, honoring the fallen and things like this. Honestly, with the way karma goes, it's probably better to just die than you have less suffering in the long term if you just get killed rather than you kill somebody in defense. But you know, I'm not going to tell people never to defend themselves. Even Buddhist monks can intentionally, give a blow to get away. Obviously not to kill. So it's two different things. Dhamma and secular, two different things. You're welcome, Robert. Thank you for the kind words. No, I do not eat meat when I'm in a vegetarian place. It's not appropriate. Now, when I'm in a vegetarian place, I eat what they eat. And this is why I don't stay at them any more than a month. After about 3 weeks, I start to go loopy. I start to have no energy. I don't go for my walks. I just kind of huddle in and conserve my energy. I have coffee to kind of give me some energy for, an hour or two of work in the morning. And that's okay. It's a good lesson for me. It's a good training. It's a good lesson. And it also gives me more time, more chances to solidify my understanding that vegetarian is not for me. No matter what somebody might say, oh, you should try this, you should try that, etc., etc., etc. No, been there, done that, got all the T-shirts, not doing it again. So no, I even though I've never felt the need to be vegetarian in my whole life, nor did I know anybody who was vegetarian. As somebody who has strongly held to certain principles in my life, even before I was a Buddhist, before Buddhist principles, chivalric principles and principles of doing good for people and helping people, like the principles I've held throughout my whole life. If somebody is honestly and sincerely following the principle of wanting to be a vegetarian, well, I respect that. It's not the same principle I follow, but I don't want to disrespect their principles by eating meat in their place. This is not appropriate for me. I would never do such a thing. So even when I was staying with Bhante Rahula, the layperson there, basically kind of spoke to him, and Bhante Rahula, who doesn't even like the smell of meat, said that the person could make meat while Bhante Rahula was away when he went to Brazil. And I said, no, we're not going to cook meat. And even though, even if Bhante Rahula doesn't smell it when he gets back, this is not appropriate. This is his place. I'm not going to do that. And who knows, he might have to smell it when he got back anyway. So yeah, no, I'll not do that. I can suffer. It's okay. Life is suffering as it is. So you thrive on a diet that has meat. Yes, I thrive on a high protein, low carb diet. If I had basically no carbohydrates, I'd be perfectly fine. Actually, I'd be great. In lay life, I had almost no carbs after my weight loss surgery. Here, they love their carbs here. Like most of the meal is carbs. So, but it is what it is. So each place is different, and each place has senior monastics that people guide their cooking, on. Just like when I start my own place, people are going to be like, oh, Bhante J likes this, so we're going to cook this. This is just the nature of how supporters are. And then somebody's going to be like, oh, God, I got to eat like this at Bhante J's place. That's the nature of things. That's how it goes. But the Thai forests eat the best, in my opinion. They have lots of good food, enough for anybody who wants to be vegetarian, eat meat, whatever. It's because they're well supported, to be honest. I mean, the support is a big factor in that. But whenever I stay with Thai monastics, I'm always well taken care of when it comes to food. It's always good. I'm going to be in in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in Abhayagiri, and I'm going to be feasting. And then maybe by then my mind will start to clear up, and I'll be back. Hello, waiting on a crested. That's a name I'm not familiar with. Is this somebody who? Oh, it's Elaine. Ah, okay. All right. Hello, Visaka. All right. So Gregory says, there are a lot of monastics from different lineages who go to live with monastics of other lineages, Thai or Sri Lankan, need to reordain, or do they keep their seniority and bosses, etc.? It depends on what you mean by go to live. If it's like a fairly permanent, multiple year thing, there are traditions of Thai that will say that you have to reordain. Even Bhante Metiko here, who ordained here like a year ago, because he's kind of in Thailand indefinitely, they reordained him. So it's not something we really see in Sri Lanka, but it's a thing in Thailand where they'll kind of be like, all these other ordinations are blah, blah, blah. You're going to have to ordain with us. And no, you don't keep your seniorities. You don't keep your vasa and seniority. If you're reordained, you're reordained. You start back from the beginning. Julie, you said with what is? I don't know. Oh, you throw. Oh. Um, NJBK. This is a name I don't know. Have you ever been to Forest Dhamma Monastery in Virginia? Yes, I have. I know Ajahn Dick to a decent degree. He came to Bhavana many times while I was there, and I've also stayed at Forest Dhamma, and I've attempted to stay, at least once in the last couple of years, but something always comes up on their end or my end, and it just hasn't worked out. But yeah. Well, I've visited pretty much every famous Thai forest monastery in America and Australia, with the exception of Wat Metta, which is Thanissaro or Ajahn Jeff's place. That's pretty much the only big one that I've not been to. I haven't technically stayed at Temple Forest, although I did visit. I visited for the day, so I don't really know much about it. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything specific you'd like me to talk about. Oh, okay. Oh, what were the differences you've seen between them? For the most part, Thai forest is pretty uniform, but it also depends on the teachers. There can be a good number of differences between, say, the Ajahn Chah lineage and the lineage that's come down through Luang Pu Mun and Mahabua. There can be some differences there, and it also I think depends on the region in Thailand that there's some differences, but they're pretty minor differences as far as I can tell. Hello, Ivy May. Welcome. Thai forest is good. It's depending on what you're looking for. Um, you to me, the best thing about Thai forest is the kind of exacting way they do things, because I'm kind of that same vein. Although I've met many monastics who kind of like felt so stifled and didn't even like, they just wanted to get out of the tradition, like, or be on their own and kind of not be under it. So, each kind of tradition has their pros and cons. So but in terms of monastic training, even though I actually feel the Thais misinterpret many rules or go way further than they need to, on many of the rules, I still think it's kind of a good it's a good thing to be trained under. At the very least, even if you don't really want to be part of the tradition, later on, having the training is pretty good. So if you want to ordain, and you're young enough, I would probably mostly suggest Abhayagiri. That's pretty, in my opinion, as far as I can tell, that's the best place to be trained as a monastic in the country. Temple Forest is on the East Coast, is, I hear, good too, although I don't have as much experience with Temple Forest as I do with Abhayagiri. But yeah, there was in the early days, I felt like I missed out not ordaining in Thai Forest, but now I'm actually quite happy that I didn't ordain in Thai Forest. I wouldn't have stayed in it long. It's the way of teaching and the Dhamma of it doesn't connect with me that much. Like Bhante G's the way the sutta based stuff it connects with me way more. But I still love the monastic forest, the Thai lineage of forest monastics. You'd just be visiting. Yeah, well, then go visit them all. Yeah, there's the Abhayagiri, Wat Metas in California, Temple Forest in New Hampshire, Forest Dhamma in Virginia. There's what is it, Tasarna in Canada. Technically, Gregory, the meat has to be allowable in way more than 3 ways. Now, of course, yes, that you've not seen or heard or suspect that the animal is being killed specifically for you, but you have to. There are certain types of animals that are not allowed, mostly predators, and pets, kind of animals. And then there's also, we can't have raw meat, so like sushi. Like if we could have cooked fish, but we can't have raw meat. We can't have raw fish. There's one exemption to being able to have raw meat and blood, and that's if you're possessed by a demon. Then the Buddha allows you to have this. And yes, that is in the monastic rules. But yeah, there's a bit more than just the 3 surrounding what meat monastics can eat, but the 3 are the main ones. Rick says, what are skillful ways to deal with the aversion I feel with how awful females are treated by some religious spiritual communities? The aversion you feel. Oh, well, you're like Malia Paguna from the Kakachupama Sutta, who made a case of it, and then the Buddha had to reprimand him. Well, this is the nature of reality is suffering. The nature of reality is unfairness. This is how things are. So what can you do? You're being like, oh man, I can't believe that country across the world, the women have to wear a big black burqa things and all this kind of stuff. Are you from that culture? Do you live in that country? Why waste your time? Why waste your worry? What are you worrying about? You're going to be dead, and that tradition is going to still be going on. It's been going on for thousands of years. It's going to still be going on. If it's within your tradition and your religion and your country, then it's a little different. Then you might be able to do something about it. But other than that, if you are attached to the suffering of beings everywhere, then you'll never let go of your own suffering. You'll just be mired in suffering forever. You have to be able to let go. Well, I mean, obviously, that takes time and effort and development of wisdom and practice and all these kind of things. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of how it is, right? And in the spider species, the women eat the men. They don't treat the men spiders too nicely. This is nature. Whoever's biggest and strongest, I guess. I wouldn't want to be a male spider, that's for sure. Julie, I might have missed a second question. Yeah, let me look back here. I don't know. No, I don't see a second question. I see you say, with what is, you thrive on a diet that has meat. The empty cloud, where am I missing? Are you still in New Jersey? Yeah, I don't see one. Just looking in the chat. If the chat is quiet, perhaps we'll read a sutta. I have a fairly short one lined up, just in case we need it. We still have about a half hour. All right. Let's read. With Dīghanakha. So I have heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha on the Vulture's Peak Mountain in Boar's Cave. And then the wanderer Dīghanakha went up to the Buddha and exchanged greetings with him. When the greetings and polite conversation were over, he stood to one side and said to the Buddha, Master Gautama, this is my doctrine and view. Nothing is acceptable to me. This view of yours, Maggasekha, is that acceptable to you? What a wonderful response. Nothing is acceptable to you. Is that view acceptable to you? Don't mind me if I'm goofy. If I were to accept this view, Master Gautama, it would make no difference. It would make no difference. Well, Maggasekha, there are many more in the world who say it would make no difference, it would make no difference. But they don't give up that view, and they grasp another view. And there are scant few in the world who say it would make no difference, it would make no difference, and then they give up that view by not grasping to another view. There are some ascetics and Brahmins who have this doctrine in view. Everything is acceptable to me. Oh, no worries, Julie. If you did try to make a second question, you could always put it again in the chat. I don't know. I just don't see it. Here we go. There are some ascetics and Brahmins who have this doctrine in view. Everything is acceptable to me. There are some ascetics and Brahmins who have this doctrine in view. Nothing is acceptable to me. There are some ascetics and Brahmins who have this doctrine in view. Some things are acceptable to me and some things are not. Regarding this, the view of the ascetics and Brahmins to whom everything is acceptable is close to greed, bondage, approving, attachment, and grasping. The view of the ascetics and Brahmins to whom nothing is acceptable is far from greed, bondage, approving, attachment, and grasping. When he said this, the wanderer Dīghanakha said to the Buddha, Master Gautama commends my conviction. He recommends my conviction. Now regarding the ascetics and Brahmins to whom some things are acceptable and some things are not, their view is of what is acceptable is close to greed, bondage, approving, attachment, and grasping. Their view of what is not acceptable is far from greed, bondage, approving, attachment, and grasping. When it comes to the view of the ascetics and Brahmins to whom everything is acceptable, a sensible person reflects like this. I have the view that everything is acceptable. Suppose I were to obstinately stick to this view and insist that this is the only truth, other ideas are silly. Then I'd argue with two people, an ascetic or Brahmin to whom nothing is acceptable, and an ascetic or Brahmin to whom some things are acceptable and some things are not. And when there's arguing, there's quarreling. And when there's quarreling, there's anguish. And when there's anguish, there's harm. So considering in themselves the potential for arguing, quarreling, anguish, and harm, they give up that view by not grasping another view. That's how those views are given up and let go. When it comes to the view of the ascetics and Brahmins to whom nothing is acceptable, a sensible person reflects like this. I have the view that nothing is acceptable. Suppose I were to obstinately stick to that view and insist this is the only truth, other ideas are silly. Then I'd argue with two people, an ascetic and Brahmin or Brahmin to whom everything is acceptable, and an ascetic or Brahmin to whom some things are acceptable and some things are not. And when there's arguing, there's quarreling. When there's quarreling, there's anguish. When there's anguish, there's harm. So, considering in themselves the potential for arguing, quarreling, anguish, and harm, they give up that view by not grasping another view. That's how those views are given up and let go. When it comes to the views of the ascetics and Brahmins to whom some things are acceptable to me and some things are not, a sensible person reflects like this. I have the view that some things are acceptable and some things are not. Suppose I were to obstinately stick to this view and insist this is the only truth, other ideas are silly. Then I'd argue with two people, an ascetic or Brahmin to whom everything is acceptable, an ascetic or Brahmin to whom nothing is acceptable. And when there's arguing, there's quarreling. When there's quarreling, there's anguish. When there's anguish, there's harm. So considering in themselves the potential for arguing, quarreling, anguish, and harm, they give up that view by not grasping another view. That's how those views are given up and let go. Agivesana, this body is physical. It's made up of the four primary elements, produced by mother and father, built up from rice and porridge, liable to impermanence, to wearing away and erosion, to breaking up and destruction. You should see it as impermanent, as suffering, as disease, as a boil, as a dart, as misery, as an affliction, as alien, as falling apart, as empty, as not self. Doing so, you'll give up desire, affection, and subservience to the body. There are these three feelings: pleasant, painful, and neutral. At a time when you feel a pleasant feeling, you don't feel a painful or neutral feeling. You only feel a pleasant feeling. At a time when you feel a painful feeling, you don't feel a pleasant or neutral feeling. You only feel a painful feeling. At a time when you feel a neutral feeling, you don't feel a pleasant or painful feeling. You only feel a neutral feeling. Pleasant, painful, and neutral feelings are impermanent, conditioned, dependently originated, liable to end, vanish, fade away, and cease. Seeing this, a learned and noble disciple grows disillusioned with pleasant, painful, and neutral feelings. Being disillusioned, desires fade away. When desire fades away, they're freed. When they're freed, they know they're free. They understand rebirth has ended, the spiritual journey has been completed. What had to be done has been done. There is no return to any state of existence. A mendicant whose mind is freed like this doesn't side with anyone or dispute with anyone. They use the language of the world to communicate without getting stuck on it. Now at that time, Venerable Sariputta was standing behind the Buddha, fanning him. Then he thought, it seems the Buddha speaks of giving up and letting go all these things through direct knowledge. Reflecting like this, Venerable Sariputta's mind was freed from the defilements by not grasping. And the stainless, immaculate vision of Dhamma arose in the wanderer Dīghanakha. Everything that has a beginning has an end. So that means he became a stream enter, Dīghanakha. Then Dīghanakha saw, attained, understood, and fathomed the Dhamma. He went beyond doubt, rid of indecision, and became self-assured and independent of others regarding the teacher's instructions. He said to the Buddha, "Excellent Master Gotama, excellent," as if he were writing the overturned or revealing the hidden, or pointing out the path to the lost, or lighting a lamp in the dark so people with clear eyes can see what's there. Master Gotama has made the teaching clear in many ways. I go for refuge to Master Gotama, to the teaching, and to the mendicant Sangha. From this day forth, May Master Gautama remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life. Hello, Jayantha. Welcome. All right. So we've come to the end of the sutta. Any questions, comments, clarifications on this sutta? Oh, threw a tough one at me. That's going to be interesting. I don't know necessarily that he prefers. I don't know if I use that word, prefers. Let me check it out. Let me see the word. Let's look at the Pali. Oh no, I guess it's not one word. It's just talking about far from craving, attachment, etc. Let me see here. I wonder if it's because it's probably easier to bring somebody who already thinks nothing is acceptable to accepting that skillfulness is something to develop. Like maybe it's easier to kind of convince somebody who doesn't think anything is acceptable than to try to convince somebody who thinks some things or everything is acceptable. Maybe it has to do with that, like the kind of understanding of the mind and what's easier. Because it's further away from greed, bondage, approving, attachment, and grasping. I think that's probably the best explanation that I can give that's come to my mind. Because they have, I mean, the Buddha does make the little quip basically saying, well, nothing is acceptable is technically a view. But it might be it might be a better place to start than everything is acceptable or some things are acceptable. I think I really do think it has to do with the ease of being able to bring them towards an understanding of Dhamma. Yeah, most likely. Bhante, can you talk about what are skillful means with interacting with people who have strongly held fixed views? Don't. Well, I mean, unless you absolutely have to. Why bother? Why get involved with it? I mean, again, like unless you absolutely have to. If there's basically no choice, then you have to. Then you talk about skillful means. But it's kind of like when somebody's like, "Oh man, like what's the best thing to do in a knife fight?" or like and most like martial arts instructors will say the best thing to do in a fight is not to get one in the first to get in one in the first place. So if you're engaged with somebody who has strongly fixed views, the best thing to do is not to get an engagement with the person in the first place, especially if there's no real point. What are you trying to maybe joust with them? You have your own strongly held views and you want to kind of see who's going to win? I mean, there's really no point. That would be kind of like me, like as a basically an early Buddhist text fundamentalist being like, going on Mahayana forums and being like, you stupid bodhisattvas, that's not da 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 da, and all this stuff, that's all made up. Like, why would I even bother with that? There's no point. Yeah, my views are a certain way and other people's views are a certain way. As long as they're not forcing their views on me, then why do I care? Why do I bother? Let them do their thing over there. I do my thing over here. I don't need to spend in a second of my life talking about any Mahayana doctrine. Why would I? What would it gain me? Wouldn't gain me anything. Especially if it was in a negative way. Mahayana, blah, 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 blah. Not worth spending a second of my life doing. Not worth it. Doesn't help anybody. Doesn't help me. Brings no benefit. So why engage? Why do it? What if they are part of part of your spiritual community? Well, and when the group gets together to make group decisions, what is skillful with such people? If a person is strongly holding on to views, the people in the group have to be able to be mentally strong enough to stand up to that view, right? Not to just kind of go along with whoever's view. That tends to be what happens. That's kind of like human dynamics. That's human nature. Like the person who has the kind of like the strength of conviction and faith and charisma and stuff like that, people will just basically just follow that person. Most people actually don't spend much time at all really thinking for themselves or thinking deeply at all, right? So, sometimes it comes down to, maybe a very unskillful person versus you and trying to convince the others. And maybe you have to reflect if you're the unskillful person, if your view is the wrong one. Maybe, may not be. But part of being in a group, especially people who lead a group, like a committee or a board, is being able to compromise and to come to an agreement, even through disagreement. That's pretty much how humanity survived to this point. Do we stay true to the Dhamma and treat them with compassion? Maybe. You can treat yourself to compassion. Maybe you need to disengage. Maybe you need to get away. Sometimes avoiding foolish people is very compassionate. NJBK giving some sutta references. Thank you. Ah, yes, the meaning and the phrasing. That's a good one. Very good. Very good. All right, friends. I think I'm going to call it a night. Like I said, we're only going to do probably an hour. I can answer Sean's question real quick because it's a quick one. Bhante, what are your thoughts and advice for incorporating kasina meditation in one's practice? I have no thoughts or advice. All I know is Bhante Gunaratana told me, and I've heard from many people say the advice of don't bother with kasina meditation. It's not worth doing. Or if you do it, you need to do it very closely with somebody who does it. There's way more pitfalls and dangerous aspects to kasina meditation than there is anapanasati and satipatthana. So if you're going to do any kind of kasina, really be able to talk to somebody who does it and knows what they're doing, or else there's many pitfalls and things like that. So yeah, I don't know any modern teacher who teaches kasina at all, and the Buddha never really taught kasina. I mean, the Buddha made some comments on it in the suttas because they were a monk, because it was a practice at the time, and so he made a few comments on it, but it wasn't really anything. It wasn't prominently featured in his teachings. So, at minimum, practice kasina with somebody who knows what they're doing. At minimum, and that's the best advice that I'm going to give. All right, friends. Well, Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy and at ease. Practice well and be well. May you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again. Jay Bowen says Ajahn Sona teaches kasina meditation a bit. That's interesting. That's the first I'm hearing of this. So there you go. Check out Ajahn Sona, see what he says. So, like I said, in 2 days, I'm getting on a plane to California, and I will not be doing any teachings, any streams for a month. So we'll be back. We'll be back in end of June, beginning of July, and then we'll be fully back in. We'll be doing morning monastery experience again back in July, and all the streams, everything will be back. So, all right. Jayantha says that Ajahn Sona also does it. Okay, there you go. Talk to Ajahn Sona, and I don't mean like just watch a couple videos. I mean literally talk to Ajahn Sona. Don't just watch a few videos and then say, and then do it. Try to have some kind of contact with him if you can. That's my suggestion. All right. Good night.